The European Green Deal tells us that we need to cut the emission of 55% by 2030. So how do we do that? And so that's why EIT Urban Mobility was created. For me, it's really a top-down process. So if at the top of the organization, the leaders are not 100% convinced of this transformation, you will struggle. So this alignment and this engagement so that this transformation is needed is vital at the top. And that then will translate at all the level of the organization. But when we talk about change in general, we need to accept also that not everyone will be on board with those changes. And for us, that moving really from one type of culture to another, we will lose people, and we need to accept that that's a natural process. But also, there will be a lot of people who have this willingness to change and to be part of this project. It's having this company hat on. Is that most of the people, or some of the departments, they have the department hat on. They are going to sell their solution, and they go to the client to represent their solution and not the company. And that's something that takes time to change, to have this company hat on. Everyone is an ambassador of the company before being the owner of the solution. So yeah, it takes time. The way we manage people 20 years ago is completely different than the way we are managing people today. And so yes, this growth mindset and willingness to learn, either you have it or you can create it at a company level. Growing and learning is something I always had in my position, and it's also something that I'm trying to implement in every company I've worked in. Of course, this means that the mindset is completely different. How do we move from a non-profit organization to a very sales-oriented and generating revenue?
Welcome to JustB2B Leaders, a podcast in which we interview leaders of B2B companies, whose goal is to generate better, more predictable, and more scalable business through the transformation of their organizations.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for following us on JustB2B Leaders podcast. So today we are with Sandrine Martin. Who is Sandrine?
So I'm French. I come from Paris. And so the best way I could define myself is probably in my personal and professional life. I was never afraid to take on new challenges. I think I was very lucky in my life to never get bored professionally, and I always had the feeling that I learned and I was growing in all my positions. So I never wanted to have maybe 3 months holidays or a quiet job, because I think that today happiness at work is that you need to feel passion and you need to feel excited by what you're doing. And
which means that you are very curious, I guess.
Curious, but also I think this is something that is changing today in society, is that young people today, what they want to learn and they want to grow. And this is a huge change in the way companies are managing people, is that the way we manage people 20 years ago is completely different than the way we are managing people today. And so yes, this growth mindset and willingness to learn, either you have it or you can create it at a company level. So I'm sharing my experience, and I think that yes, growing and learning is something that I always had in my position, and it's also something that I'm trying to implement in every company I've worked in.
Very good. How we met each other?
So we've been working together since 2 years already, because we are in the process of implementing a new company culture, the B2B culture in our company. Because before, I will explain a bit more about EIT Urban Mobility. But we were mainly, let's say, a non-profit organization, and now we are moving towards, let's say, an activity where we need to generate our revenue. And of course, this means that the mindset is completely different. How do we move from a non-profit organization to a very sales-oriented and generating revenue? So we are in this journey, and you came on board to help us since 2 years in order to train our people. So I think we have more than 70 people who were trained already. And also we have all our members of our management team who went through the ETSADE program with you, or at least half of them, and the others will come. Because when we go through a transformation like that, it's very, very important that the example comes from the top. So it's a top-down process. And so it's been 2 years we've been working together in this journey.
What can you explain about the EIT Urban Mobility? What is this company about?
So EIT Urban Mobility, we are a European initiative created 5 years ago. So fighting against the climate emergency, changing the way we move in cities is crucial. The European Green Deal tells us that we need to cut the emission of 55% by 2030. So how do we do that? And so that's why EIT Urban Mobility was created. So our mission is to accelerate the transformation towards sustainable urban mobility. So today we are the leading network in the field of urban mobility, and our role is to bring together the different players like industry, startup, academia, research centers, for us together to develop and deploy innovative solutions in Europe. So how do we do this? So we have many activities like Match and Connect. So we have our biggest event in the year, that's the Tomorrow Mobility, the Smart City Expo that happens in November every year, where we have more than 25,000 people that comes and visit us. But we also invest in startups who have an innovative solution. So if we believe that they will bring a strong impact on society in terms of sustainable urban mobility and they can be financially sustainable, we will invest in them. But we also support innovative ideas by helping those organizations to test their ideas in cities, and if it works well, then we will deploy it in the rest of Europe. But also we work in preparing our future talents for tomorrow. So we have academia. In order to prepare the future talents of tomorrow in that field. But we also influence at EU level, so we have many different activities, so those are just a few examples.
How many people you are?
So today we are more than around 200 people.
Okay, and what type of clients? They are mainly B2G or B2B or B2C for sure not, right?
So today we have 250 partners. And around 1,100 organizations in our network, and I would say that 80% of them are B2B and 20% B2G.
20% B2G.
Business to government.
Business to government, okay. You mentioned that you are in this process to transform your organization, and because the income will stop coming from the European Union to start coming from outside, so you need to be sustainable, right? So what you can explain about this transformation process that you are facing?
Yes, so at the beginning, we were funded by the EU, but of course we cannot only rely on EU funding because we know that is limited in time, and also they will reduce over time. So if we want to continue our mission beyond EU funding, we need to start generating our own revenues. So that means we need to build a value proposition and something to sell that would generate revenue for us. So we started this process three years ago by building a value proposition and implementing a B2B process in order to be successful in generating this revenue for us to be financially sustainable.
I think you didn't mention your position in urban mobility. What is your position in urban mobility?
So I'm the People and Culture Director of EIT Urban Mobility.
That sounds like very easy.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so from a transformation point of view, what do you think is the big deal? Is the organization, the management model, or the culture transformation? Where do you think that it's going to be tougher? Because both are needed, right?
The strategy and
how you are organized as a company, if you have the right processes, if you are measuring the right things and so on, all these things we saw in the program, right? Or you believe that what is really going to be harder is transforming the culture, the mindset?
Transforming the culture, I would say, is the biggest challenge. But for that, we first need to understand what does culture mean, what does a company culture is. So for me, on one side we have the strategy, and it's quite simple to define. The strategy is the direction we want to go to and how and the goals. But of course, how to get there it's the company culture who will define how we will get there. And often in companies we spend a lot of time building the strategy, and we don't think about the company culture that will help us bring us there. Okay, so how do you build a company culture? And coming back to the B2B process, the company culture, yes, is the way people will behave in front of our clients, but how do you influence in the behavior of our people? For that, you need a system behind. And what is the system of the company? Well, the system of the company is the structure, it's the people, it's the processes.
The management.
The way you reward people. So it's all that is going to create the company culture. And to give an example, often we have audited, for example, what is our current culture? Because sometimes before thinking about creating a new culture, we first have to see what is our current culture. And so we did this OKAI analysis, and what we realized is that each department had a different type of company culture. So what does that mean? It means that it was defined by the leader of the departments. And what happens if the leader goes? Well, then the company culture goes also, probably. So we didn't have a company culture at a company level. So how do you build that? So that was the first analysis. And often companies rely on the company culture because of their leaders. But people leave and go all the time, so we need something that stays. And for that, we need to work on those processes, on the like what we're doing now is the B2B culture that we are implementing. It's not just about processes, it's about having the right people, how we reward them, having the right structure in place, and that the people strategy, I would say, is part of the main strategy. Because when we are in the B2B business, it's all about people, and the people are our biggest assets. So it's a key pillar of the strategy.
What have been your main learnings so far in this journey? You attended to the edition to the B2B management program a while ago, and before you, some executives already passed through there. So somehow you were a little bit already infected by the philosophy. So what are your learnings now that you are hands-on doing this transformation? For the good, the bad,
Yes.
What is harder, and so on?
Well, the main learning for me is that the B2B process works. So I'll explain myself. Is that often when for example, we want to recruit salespeople or how to sell, we often think that it's a personal talent that people have, or it's an art. So we have those biases, like introverted people cannot be good sellers, for example. And in fact, by doing this program and seeing that in fact the B2B is a process, is that everyone can be a good
B2B professional.
Right. Exactly. So by applying it, it's something that you can learn. And for example, after 2 years, people who went through the program internally, we are starting to speak the same language. So we are all, when we go and see a client, we are not selling a product. Now the mindset is, how are we helping our clients, and how are we positioning ourselves as an expert in understanding the problems of our clients and the pains of our clients. And those wordings, if everyone starts having this common language that we are not selling a product, but we have a solution to our client's problem. And that's a big shift in the mindset, because most of the people before, they went to see our client, and it's a bit like in the metro, those people who open the jacket with all the watches and just present all the catalogs of products we have. And that's not how we do B2B. So they're applying, for example, the 90-10 principle, really understanding the pains of our clients and positioning ourselves as the experts in the solution to their problems. So that's what we went through, and also, I would say, adapting our value proposition to those new pains. Because sometimes we are very, let's say, egocentric. We love our products, but we never think, is it really answering the pain of our clients?
Absolutely. And what is harder in this journey? So you said the good news is that the process works. Where are you suffering more in terms of culture fine-tuning? I don't really like to talk about culture transformation, because sometimes people pass through the program and they can come back to me and say, hey, we are a disaster. No, you are not a disaster. You make 100 millions, you are 100 millions good. But if you want to be 300 millions good, perhaps you need to operate differently, right? You're not a disaster. So This fine-tuning you are doing for your organization, what are the challenges? Where you are struggling the most?
Well, alignment. So having, for me, it's really a top-down process. So if at the top of the organization, people, the leaders, are not 100% convinced of this transformation, you will struggle. I mean, it's so this alignment and this engagement that this transformation is needed is vital at the top, and that then will translate at all the level of the organization. But when we talk about change in general, we need to accept also that not everyone will be on board with those changes. And for us, that moving really from one type of culture to another, we will lose people, and we need to accept that that's a natural process. But also, there will be a lot of people who have this willingness to change and to be part of this project. So yeah, I would say this alignment. And also the second thing is having this company hat on. Is that most of the people, or some departments, they have the department hat on. They are going to sell their solution, and they go to the client to present their solution and not the company. And that's something that takes time to change, to have this company hat on. Everyone is an ambassador of the company before being the owner of the solution. So yeah, it takes time to
probably if you are a CEO right now, you want to hire Sandrine as a people leaders department because you have such incredible business mindset that not everybody in business in people department has. So I think that's a very, very important. So sometimes I'm not against people department, but sometimes people department leaders forget about people and forget about business, right? And I think combining the two things, it's super, super important. You talk about alignment, right? So I'm sure some people listening to you will think, oh my God, this means change, crisis. It's a crisis somehow. The process you are following, not in a negative point of view, but it means change, right?
A change is an opportunity. For me, it's never a crisis. With change, change is happening every day. I mean, we need to adapt to the market. We need to be agile. I mean, change management, in fact, is part of our daily life. So sometimes we give too much importance to the word, but out of those changes, there's a lot of opportunities. And so crisis, no, I don't see it as a crisis.
Sandrine, what has been the positive side? What was the unexpected best surprise?
Well, to see how many people, in fact, was also on board and willing to be part of this journey of change, and that they saw that the process was working, and that gave also this motivation and engagement in believing that our company could be successful. Because if you see that it's working, people need to believe in what we're doing and that we will be successful.
What would you tell to other people that they are leading a people department in a B2B company? What would be your advice to other people in your position that they are perhaps in your past behind this, that they are suffering this situation that you describe, more product oriented, less business oriented, less client oriented? What would be your best advice to those people? This one is out of our questions, but I think it's a very good one.
So the HR departments in general, I think has evolved a lot during the last 20 years. It's true that in Spain often and in small companies, HR is more linked to the administration, to managing payroll, and it's an administrative function. And if you're in the B2B business, once you understood that the people are your key assets and that and you're working for the success of your company, well, HR, the people strategy is key. So having a strong HR function that is part of the strategy is essential in the success of the company. I mean, for example, many times on LinkedIn, you receive job openings for an HR director. And when reading it, you see that the HR director is reporting to the finance department or to the legal department or even to the COO. Well, what does that mean? For me, it's okay. people is not part of the strategy, how can a company be successful in B2B if the culture is not part of their strategy? So I would say that for the HR function or the HR people really needs to be very close to the business, a real business partner, and speaking the business language. So it's about positioning the function as something strategic and very linked to the business success.
Do you believe that you could have succeed without alone, I would say, without the support of other members from the executive committee, that they were in the same page as you? So, because it's very easy that other people in leading the people department, it's listening this podcast. Do you believe that you could have done alone this process, or the fact that you had other people in the ExCom of Urban Mobility supporting the same idea and so on has been key? The answer, I imagine the answer, but if the answer is no, what do you recommend to those people that they already see that a change is needed? So tell me.
Well, of course, we need to work together. So alone, the HR function cannot succeed. So we need to collaborate together for sure. And also when we talk about company culture, it's not just an HR responsibility. The HR function is there to support, but as I said, we're talking about the whole system of the organization, the processes, the people, the strategy. There's many things around culture. So HR needs to work closely with all the different colleagues in the management team, for example. So it's a transversal function. If the CEO doesn't see that the need of investing on the B2B culture, do you think you have any chance as a HR leader? No, probably of course, not. Because it's top down. We cannot do it alone. Absolutely. So this means that if somebody in your position confirms that there is, I was talking to a guy like a few minutes ago, Luis, he was telling to me, there is no solution. So I see the mindset of my CEO. This is never going to change. So there is no chance, right? Or you think that you can work horizontally to see if you can impact the CEO? What is your vision there? Well, I mean, I think the best way to demonstrate that it works is to test it and then to show the results. So of course, the process will be longer, maybe, but of course we need the onboarding at the highest level. So as I was saying at the beginning, it's a top-down process, and if at the top they're not convinced, sometimes showing success stories can help, but at the end you cannot. It has to come from the top. We can influence, we can show best practices, but we need to have the CEO on board. Absolutely. What would be your, that's the last one, what would be your best advice to other people in your position in a B2B company? What would be your 2 cents about this journey through the project we have been working together and the program and the other executives and so on? Well, implementing a B2B culture, we're talking about the people, and so HR has a very important role in this transformation and leading this B2B cultural transformation. And for that, yes, you need to be very connected to the business to be credible as HR. So you cannot just come with your HR processes, but you need to speak the business language. You need to be very connected to the business to be credible. Yes. Very good point. Very good point. Is it a fast process or is it a slow process? It can be fast. You can be fast. It can be slow. Yeah, but normally it's not that fast, right? Okay, very good, Sandrine. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.